Why, hello there, and welcome to yet another episode of We Need to Talk About ... And if we're not counting our bonus episodes on public information films or our favourite episodes of Batman the Animated Series, we are actually now on Snakes Alive. It's episode 5.
Here we go again.
Is that a good thing?
Oh yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Once again, I am the Big Daddy D, David Mabley, and I am heavy and well known. By well known, I mean I've got about 2,900 subscribers on this here YouTube channel, and by heavy, I mean I'm about 16 stone.
And I'm Luke Murphy, and I can bop with the best of them.
So today on We Need to Talk About ... we're going to be going round to those warrior fellas' houses and knocking on the door and asking the mums if they fancy coming out and having a play. This is a movie that had a rather troubled production, including, but not limited to, members of the crew getting injured and having noses, wrists and ribs broken, getting harassment from actual New York street gangs that later ended up appearing in the film, funnily enough, and upon the film being released in cinemas, it led to real-life gang violence and the deaths of about 3 people. However, I feel that once again, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here. So, let's start from the very beginning.
Based upon Sol Hurwick's 1965 novel of the same name, Walter Hill's The Warriors tells the story of a New York street gang's attempt to get back to their home territory of Coney Island after being wrongfully accused of the murder of the leader of the city's largest gang. The only problem is that every other gang in the city is out to get them. Hurwicke took inspiration for his novel from the works of Xenophon, the ancient Greek philosopher, historian and soldier, particularly Anabasis, his account of how 10,000 Spartan warriors were stranded deep behind enemy lines in Persia and had to cross the country with no supplies save for those that they could get by force or by diplomacy, to the relative safety of the Greek-held cities on the shores of the Black Sea. In fact, during the novel, one of the Coney Island dominators, which was changed to the Warriors for the film, reads a comic version of that story.
The rights to Hurwicke's novel were originally purchased by American International Pictures in 1969, along with likely a load of other pulp novels at the time, but no film was ever made. The rights were then bought by producer Lawrence Gordon, who commissioned David Shaber to write a script. Gordon had made Hard Times in 1975 and The Driver in 1978 with Walter Hill. Gordon and Hill were originally going to make a western, but when the financing on the project failed to materialise, they took The Warriors to Paramount Pictures because they were interested in new films at the time and succeeded in getting the project financed.
Hill was drawn to the extreme narrative simplicity and the stripped-down quality of the script. The script, as written, was a realistic take on street gangs, but the director was a huge fan of comic books and wanted to divide the film into chapters and then have each chapter come to life, starting with a splash page. Now, we'll come to this later, as we have both got quite a bit to say about this particular aspect of the director's vision. However, enough of this preamble. Let's get to the film itself.
Well, for the purposes of this review, Luke was taking a look at the original theatrical version, which is available on DVD. I, however, was unfortunate enough to be labelled with the Blu-ray edition of the so-called Special Edition Director's Cut. This is the terrible version that, due to the inclusion of comic panels, outline filters, weird transition effects, and the use of the Comic Sans font, makes part of the film look like an issue of the Beano.
However, both versions of the film, the theatrical version on DVD and a director's cut on Blu-ray, are currently available. They're in a rather nice little package from HMV in this country. That looks like an old VHS video cassette. In actual fact, we have it here. It's very nice. We'll show it later on.
Not Arrow Video this time, then?
No, not Arrow. They've stopped taking my calls.
The beginning of the director's cut edition attempts to tie in the film with the story that inspired the book, of the Greek soldiers isolated in the middle of the Persian Empire, millenniums ago, which isn't even the right word to use.
No, it's not. The opening shot of the movie is the Wonder Wheel, with some brilliant squelchy 70s synth sounds, as all the gangs of New York are on a train, meeting up for the huge summit. Representing Coney Island are the Warriors, our heroes in the film.
The Warriors' leader is Cleon. We have Cleon's lieutenant and second-in-command, Swan. There's Cleon and Swan's friends, Vermin and Cowboy. There's the Scout, Fox. There's Harlem native Cochise. And there's Rembrandt, the Warriors' graffiti artist. We've also got the muscle of the gang, Snow and Ajax, who seems like a bit of an arse. All muscle and no brains, that lad.
You got a one-track brain, you know that?
What's the matter? You going faggot?
Yeah, there's a lot of language being dotted around that ages the movie and probably wouldn't be used much these days. Don't hold it too much against the movie. It is very much a product of the times.
So, we're introduced to some of the other gangs. Aside from the Warriors, there's the Boppers, the Electric Eliminators, the Saracens, the Gladiators, the Savage Huns, the Hi-Hats, which are literally a gang of mime artists.
A mime is a horrible thing to make.
And then, of course, there's the gang of violent old ladies, the gang of big babies, the gang of vicious traffic cones.
Right, stop that. It's silly. Very silly indeed.
Anyway, some of these gangs actually look like students on a themed night out, or lads out at a stag do. I mean, the Boppers, for example, they're literally a gang in silk purple waistcoats. I'm expecting a gang to pop up where everyone's dressed up as Baywatch cast members, Smurfs, or Marvel superheroes.
Although, to be honest with you, these days it might be some minions or something like that, or something.
A gang of minions.
A gang of minions.
That literally would be scary. So if you were to have your own gang and your own bit of territory, what would you go for?
I would go with Hell's Kitchen.
Hell's Kitchen?
Hell's
Great.
Kitchen. Hell's Kitchen Daredevils. Boom.
Enough said.
Enough said. There we go. Yes, it's a kind of blind people.
Just so a load of blind people,
Load of blind people.
in red leather, twatting people with walking
With
sticks.
walking sticks.
My gang would be the Wizards of Zardos. The outfit would basically be wearing red nappies with matching bandoliers and thigh-high leather black boots and ponytails with moustaches.
Which is basically what he wears at the weekend.
I told you not to talk about that.
Sorry.
And they would be based in Times Square, where the big stone head of Zardos can basically do his speeches on the huge video walls. And I'm going to have to do some photoshopping in at this point.
Oh, yes, you saw that.
And Times Square isn't a claimed territory in the film, so that's all mine, baby. So let's go on to the plot. Cyrus, the leader of the Gramercy Riffs, which is the most powerful gang in New York City, calls a midnight summit of all the city's gangs, requesting them to send 9 delegates to Van Cortlandt Park. So you're not allowed to be flexing, i.e. being aggressive, or packing, i.e. have any weapons. Throughout the beginning of the film, Cyrus is touted as this brilliant cult-like figure with a vision of the future, and a bit of a messiah complex.
Cyrus proposes to the assembled crowd a permanent city-wide truce that would allow the gangs to control the city, since they outnumber the police 5-1, and that they could even take over the crime syndicates.
Most of the gangs applaud this idea as Cyrus asks them whether or not they can dig it.
Can you dig it?
Luther,
Yes,
the leader of the rogues, decides that he doesn't dig this, and whips out a gun to shoot Cyrus dead. In the resulting chaos, Luther frames the warriors' leader Cleon for the murder.
There he is! That's him! That's the warrior! He shot Cyrus!
He made you crazy. I didn't do nothing.
We saw him! Yeah, that's him. He's the one! He's the one! The warriors did it!
The leader of the warriors, Cleon, who just decided to have a wander over to Cyrus's dead body and then stand there with a face like a smacked arse, let's be honest, is beaten down and most likely elbowed to death by the Riffs.
Meanwhile, the other warriors have escaped as the police come swarming in, unaware at this point that they have all been implicated in Cyrus's murder. The Riffs make it official, putting out a hit on the warriors through their own personal radio DJ in their headquarters.
And can we just take a moment to talk about the DJ's lovely, velvety, honey, caramelly voice? It's fantastic.
It is truly. We'll talk a little bit more about sort of the use of the DJ, the role of the DJ. Yeah, you never see the DJ, the DJ's face. You only ever see her sort of, her mouth at the microphone. But the way in, the function that she has is really, really interesting, and yeah, it's a really lovely part.
So the second in command of the Riffs, he's got the aviator shades, he's got the jewel-encrusted robe and no shirt look going on. I mean, you can see why the Riffs are the biggest gang. They're the most organised, they've got the look down, they've got the fighting skills down, they all seem to be pretty good at martial arts. They've got the best looking headquarters with their own personal DJ and radio station. While some of the other gangs, they've just gone for the first look that they thought of, or whatever they found in a bin somewhere. You're dressing up in baseball gear or as mimes.
Still a terrible thing to waste. Swan, the warriors' war chief, takes charge of the group as they regroup in the graveyard, despite some protests from Ajax, and make plans to try and get back home to Coney Island. it's safe to say that the truce isn't on anymore. All agreements for the gangs to work together came to an end before Cyrus's body even finished hitting the ground. So the warriors realise that they're going to have to bop their way back.
They may even have to bop the boppers if they find themselves going around Harlem, and the boppers are well known for their bopping, as you can imagine.
Good grief. To say that there's a load of gangs, none of them are racist or even mention any race. Every gang seems to be made up of multiple races and cultures. Even the skinhead gang, the Turnbull ACs, are multicultural.
A non-racist, multicultural skinhead gang? That seems to be sending some conflicting messages there.
So, the bunch of big bloody bald boys aboard their big battle bus decide to go bopping with their bats after the warriors. Luckily for our heroes, the AC's bus can barely go about 5 miles an hour, so the warriors manage to escape getting run down and are able to board the subway home.
But on the ride to Coney Island, the train is stopped by a fire on the tracks, stranding the warriors in the Bronx. Meanwhile, Luther and his boys steal some Karamak bars, remember those? And start putting the word out that the warriors are on the run and are stranded in the Bronx.
What about the money you owe?
For what?
Luther, aka a creepy little prick, is played by David Patrick Kelly, who would go on to play very similar characters throughout his career. He was also the creepy yuppie and later on creepy mountain man Jerry Horn in Twin Peaks. He was the creepy mercenary Sully in Commando that Arnie kills.
Remember, Sally, when I promised to kill you last?
That's right, Major. You did.
I lied.
He's another creepy character called Luther in 48 Hours, also directed by Walter Hill. He was the creepy leader of the gang that killed Eric Draven in The Crow.
You can't be you. We put you through the window. There ain't no coming back.
Etc, etc. If he was a Pokemon, then he would be a creepy type, one that has gone through all his evolutions throughout his acting career. Give him credit though, the man clearly understands how marketable being detestable is.
Setting out on foot, the warriors find themselves in the turf of a gang called the Orphans, who were not invited to Cyrus's meeting, and they are not happy about it. As a result, the gang are feeling insecure about their low status in the city gang hierarchy, which, to be fair, has to be expected when you have to carry around newspaper clippings to show everyone how heavy and well-known you are.
Well, that and the fact that you've inexplicably based your uniform off Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Nice! Swan attempts to make peace with the Orphans' leader Sully, who only seems to be the leader because he is the tallest. He agrees to let the warriors pass through their territory unharmed. However, one member of the gang, a young woman named Mercy, emasculates Sonny as a chicken and instigates a confrontation. Mercy says that she wants the warriors to give her one of their vests as payment before allowing them to start walking through their neighbourhood.
It's always about bloody clothes with the women, isn't it? Having said that, would it be too much to ask Mercy to wear a bra or something?
Swan and the warriors flatly refuse Sully's demand, which is fair enough. I mean, those vests do look expensive. If you're getting that sort of custom embroidery on the back, and you have to see a specialist about it, and that shit ain't cheap.
This leads to the warriors and the orphans getting ready to have a big old fight. And although they're outnumbered and unarmed, Swan and the warriors throw a Molotov cocktail at a car, blowing it up and using the opportunity to escape to the train station.
By this point, Mercy has actually decided to follow the warriors, impressed with their bravery and not backing down against the larger numbers of the orphans. When they arrive at the 96th Street and Broadway station in Manhattan, they are chased by the police and separated. 3 of the warriors, Vermin, Cochise and Rembrandt, make the train to Union Square, while Fox, struggling with a police officer, is knocked onto the tracks and is run over by a train as Mercy manages to escape. In the script, Fox was going to be Mercy's love interest, but that was later changed to Swan when the actor that played Fox, Thomas Waits, turned out to be a right pain in the arse and argued almost constantly with the director Walter Hill. Waits would later walk off the set never to return and demanded that his name be removed from the credits, so his character was removed from the film by getting thrown into the path of a train.
Swan and the remaining warriors, Ajax, Snow and Cowboy, find themselves in Riverside Park, where they're chased by the Baseball Furies, possibly the most iconic and recognisable gang in the movie due to their love of baseball uniforms and equipment, as well as their face paint that makes them look like members of the rock band Kiss.
These guys are genuinely scary. I mean, out of all the gangs in the film, these are the ones that will terrify you if you saw them in real life. They don't speak, they don't sweat, they don't seem to get tired, and it takes a number of hits before they all go down. They're so scary, in fact, that the music had to be added to the fight scene in post-production to actually make them less scary.
But Ajax ain't scared.
I'll shove that bat up your ass and turn you into a popsicle.
What, he's going to lick him? The Warriors stand their ground and have a vicious brawl with the Furies, who, despite their better luck, numbers and weaponry, get their collective arses kicked. After the fight, Ajax notices a lone woman sitting in the park and foolishly decides to break away from the rest of the group. Upon attempting to aggressively force himself on her, he gets handcuffed to the park bench. And not in a kinky sex way, more in it turns out she's an undercover cop kind of way.
So, creepy Ajax gets bopped and arrested and is never seen again in the film. By this point, you're actually glad to see the back of him anyway. Although there was a comic book series set after the film where the Warriors attempted to break Ajax out of jail.
Meanwhile, over at Union Square, Vermin, Cochise and Rembrandt are seduced by an all-female gang called the Lizzies, and invited to their hideout with the promise of a good time and some jazz cigarettes. Rembrandt seems to be a little confused, bless him, when he sees a group of ladies together. Wait a minute, there's something bothering me about this place. I know, this lesbian bar doesn't have a fire exit. Enjoy your death trap, ladies!
The trio learn in the process that everyone believes they murdered Cyrus and managed to escape the Lizzies' subsequent attack, which is just as well considering that this gang are the most tooled up that we've seen so far. To say that this is a very masculine movie, the women are by far more dangerous than the males. They keep getting one over the, quite frankly, thick males. The Lizzies, the police women. Mercy.
All these women have to say is, wow, you're heavy and well down. And these boys just go, oh, yeah, we are, women. They completely lose the power of common sense and rational thinking, so I guess they really are teenagers. That's so unfair, I hate you. Swan finds himself as a lone wolf, which is mixing up the animal metaphors, I know, as he finds himself back at the 96th Street station where he encounters Mercy again. This time she's wearing a jacket, which she's apparently nicked from somewhere. At first I thought that the decision was made behind the scenes to give her this jacket to wear to, cover up a bit, as she's clearly not wearing a bra. But it turns out that under the jacket she's got her arm in a sling, due to an accident during the filming of an earlier scene where she fell over and broke her wrist.
More police show up and Swan and Mercy flee into the train tunnel. It's here where we find out some of Mercy's backstory and what a tragic character Mercy actually is. She's talking about getting doped up and essentially whoring herself out as an alternative to being stuck in a cockroach-infested house with absolutely no future.
You realise that she has no other choice in life because no opportunities to have a better life came her way. What could be a throwaway romance ends up being an amazing scene because of the backstories of these characters. He's a member of a street gang that suddenly had leadership thrust upon him and now he's just trying to get himself and his friends back home. She is definitely not a damsel in distress. She's a really troubled woman that's lost her way in life and just uses her womanly charms to get what she needs to survive, just to feel something.
The two of them have a massive argument, which leads to a kiss, naturally, and Swan continues to Union Square, where he reunites with the other warriors, and they encounter another gang, the punks from the Bowery, who like their denim dungarees and their roller skates, and a massive dirty weapons-filled brawl kicks off in the public toilet where every single mirror and wooden door gets smashed and buggering.
It's brilliant. It's by far, I mean, the fight with the baseball Furies was brilliant, but this one is by far the best fight scene in the entire film, and the Warriors managed to win. But in their victory, the gang reflect on how few of them have returned from ancient Greece. Membership rates are going to be dropping off here. Getting on another train, the Warriors look to be finally heading home and take the opportunity to relax a little and reflect on what they've been through over the last few hours. They've been getting beaten up, arrested, even killed, just to try and get back home.
And then, in come these two prom couples, who get on the train and sit opposite Swan and Mercy, and here you can see the distinction between two very different lives. Mercy is the most affected by this. This is the kind of life that she always envisioned for herself. She doesn't want to be involved in a dust-up in a public toilet. She wants to be in a dance-off like these couples, if anything.
Mercy even goes as far as to adjust her hair, but Swan puts her hand down as if to say, you don't need to do that. You don't need to make yourself look better for other people. The prom couple lock eyes. They understand. They know that they're getting a glimpse of a very different world from the one that they've inhabited. With no words exchanged, with no music playing, only the sound of the subway train, we get one of the most deep pieces of cultural understanding in a movie. They quickly get off the train at the next stop, somewhat intimidated, as Mercy closes her eyes and the life she can never have disappears.
The Warriors finally arrived back at Coney Island at dawn, thinking that once they saw the sea, that they would finally be home free, just like the Spartans did all of those millenniums ago.
But alas, they're not home free yet, as the warriors find that the rogues have been waiting for them in their painted-up hearse. It's here where Luther delivers one of the most memorable and creepy lines from the movie.
Warriors, come out to play. Warriors, come out to play.
It's something that's been referred to and referenced in hundreds of other forms of media.
What is that? Who's got beer?
Archer, come out to play.
Barry?
Mordecai, put your phone away.
Spider Wars! Come out and play!
Bullies, come out to play. Oh no, he's got 3 bottles.
When asked, Luther tells Swan he shot Cyrus for no reason, because he gets a thrill out of things like that.
No reason, I just like doing stuff like that. He sounds like a naughty little boy that hasn't learned any social skills, and the only way he knows how to interact with people is by acting like a little prick. He needs some time on the naughty step.
Swan challenges Luther to a one-on-one fight, but Luther pulls his gun instead. Swan throws a knife into Luther's wrist, disarming him.
Yes, that's right. Swan brought a knife to a gunfight. An actual one. Yes.
The Riffs arrive and apprehend the rogues. The Riffs acknowledge the warriors' courage and skill, telling them that they're good. Real good. With peace made between the Riffs and the warriors, Swan and his remaining gang members are allowed to go free, whilst the rogues still find themselves surrounded by some very angry lads with weapons.
As the warriors leave, Luther does make a very good point by saying, "No, it wasn't us, it was the warriors." Yeah, but you just confessed to shooting Cyrus because you like doing stuff like that, didn't you? But hey, don't listen to the mainstream media with their facts and evidence, am I right? Luther screams in anguish as the Riffs descend upon the rogues. No doubt they all got elbowed to death.
At least the orphans put up a decent fight against the warriors. The rogues are just a bunch of lads eating Karamak bars and being shitty whilst their leader is a creepy lad with a gun. None of them fight back after Luther gets a knife in the wrist. They just bloody stand there with a face on.
The radio DJ announces that the big alert has been called off and salutes the warriors with a song in the city. Swan, Mercy and the rest of the gang walk down the beach, illuminated by the rising sun. Well, in the theatrical edition we get a nice long section of them walking down the beach as the credits roll. In the director's cut, we then decide to pan out of the comic book and it freeze frames before they're even halfway down the beach. Oh, those extra 73 seconds were all worth it, right? So, what
have we watched here?
Have we watched here?
So, I mean, it was a difficult shoot whilst making the movie. Real injuries were sustained during some of the fight scenes and stunts, including broken wrists, broken noses, ribs, etc. But most of the problems came from real-life street gangs at the time. Crew members were sent death threats because local gangs weren't cast.
Thousands of dollars worth of equipment were damaged when one gang tore through the set during a lunch break. Eventually a deal was made so that the film trucks were protected by a real-life street gang called the Mongrels for $500 a day. Throughout production, the cast were regularly subjected to taunts, harassment and threats from real gang members who were observing the filming. Shouting, noise-making and other interruptions from nearby watchers was common during filming, requiring scenes to have to be reshot after security removed the offenders.
For the big meeting at the beginning of the film, Walter Hill had real New York City gang members as a gesture of goodwill from producers to allow them to be part of the production taking place on their territory. The NYPD expressed reservations about this arrangement, fearing the close proximity of so many actual and competing gang members could lead to violence. They insisted on placing undercover police officers throughout the crowd to handle any disturbances. So the scene features real gang members as well as real, albeit unknown, cops.
After reports of vandalism and violence, Paramount temporarily halted their advertising campaign and released theatre owners from their obligation to show the film. Despite its initially negative reception, The Warriors has since become a cult film, and it's built a great world full of kooky characters with intertwining lives that was ripe for expanding upon in other media, including comic books and the video game. every character is a strong character. Every character has convictions, motivations, even if some of those are a bit shitty and unpleasant.
There has been talk of the movie being rebooted or remade numerous times over the years, but to be honest, I'm surprised that this hasn't been picked up for a TV series. Netflix original instead. You could easily do a series telling the same story, but from the perspective of a different gang in each episode. I weren't any sequels to this at all, and to be honest with you, because there wasn't a sequel to The Warriors, I think it makes it a stronger film, to be fair. If you are wanting to go and see The Warriors, and I'm not going to preempt our final sort of recommendation review and what have you, but please go and see this movie. It is really, really good. Please go and see the theatrical version. The idea that Walter Hill was trying to do, okay, nice. However, it really slows the film down a lot.
Yeah.
The film rattles along at a really, really good pace, to be honest with you. In the first 5 minutes, it tells you all about it tells you about the gangs, the meeting, about Cyrus. When you see Cyrus for the first time, you kind of like get it because the Warriors are talking about this character, this Messiah-like figure. And when Cyrus comes on the screen, played by the actor Roger Hill, who is only on screen for about less than 10 minutes, he does a massive, great big speech. And he is 100% brilliant in this. He absolutely owns that 10 minutes. All eyes are on him. The problem with the Ultimate Director's Cut is that when it freezes, and then you see the panel, and then you go through the meanwhile and what have you, you don't need it. And another problem about the Director's Cut is that when you've got that panel jumping and what have you, it kind of makes the function of the character of the DJ completely and utterly irrelevant in the film. I mean, because this has got origins in ancient Greece, she's the chorus. She's the chorus of ancient Greek plays and what have you. She's the narrator. She's the scene setter.
She would be like the narrator in the musical, like in Joseph. Joseph was taken in chains to Egypt and sold, where he was bought by a captain named Potiphar. She would be the narrator in that. And I was in Edinburgh.
Where did that come from, mate? That's brilliant.
Oh, thank you. I was in Edinburgh last year on holiday, and it was during the time of the of like all the different sort of shows going off on the Edinburgh Fringe. And as I was walking around, I saw advertisements for musicals for The Evil Dead, musicals for The Toxic Avenger. So it's like, if you can make musicals out of those, you could quite easily make a musical out of The Warriors.
Musical Toxic Avenger.
And have the DJ as the narrator throughout the whole piece. That's her job, to narrate what's going on. You don't need the silly comic book panels. So I'm loving the badass soundtrack. I'm loving the use of lots of dirty synths. The soundtrack's full of soul and rock, and it's very much of the time period. The entire music score is synthesized rock and roll music. I mean, get yourself the theatrical version.
Please do.
Blu-ray. I mean, get hold of it. Show them from the box as well. Get hold of that.
Get hold of this.
Get hold of the soundtrack while you're at it as well.
Yeah, I mean, these have all been out before. There's a good few sort of titles that HMV is doing, but it is like an old video. It's even like that.
Yeah.
That is the box.
A bit of look on the back as well. How good is that?
But it's really, really well done.
But it's not a videotape, ladies and gentlemen.
No, because inside it,
I feel like we've turned into an unboxing video now.
Wowzers! Discs, ladies and gentlemen, Blu-ray and DVDs, and a nice little poster, and a trading card and a sticker. It's a really, really nice package. We've been to New York City. We've been to the Big Apple with the... No. Just no. No.
We need to talk about the Apple?
Get away. Away now. Thank you. We've been to New York City. We've survived gang culture of New York City. We've been to play with the Warriors, and we have survived, ladies and gentlemen.
And you've had a bit of an insight into what I get up to on weekends.
Absolutely. And also we've learned that the mime is a terrible thing to waste.
You Warriors are good. Real good. The best.
It's a film that deserves its cult status. If we're going on to the Rotten Tomatoes thing again, this is like up to a whopping 90%, so this is now
the highest film that we've ever
the
done.
highest movie ever. And it does deserve that cult status. It
Yeah,
does
I
deserve
think
all the praise that's heaped upon it.
As we have said, we can't. Do we really even need to say whether or not this gets a thumbs up or not?
I think we've said it all.
I think we have said it all.
I will say in closing, we did actually have 2 more episodes already written
Yes.
and ready to go, and we're ready to do them.
Yes.
And we have a short list of the films that we want to cover on the show.
Well, to be fair, it's not a short list anymore.
Well, it's becoming quite a long list.
It's a long list.
And we were in conversation. It might have been in the pub. And the
Very likely.
And the Warriors was mentioned.
Yes.
And as soon as the Warriors were mentioned, I got very excited at the idea of covering the Warriors. So much so that I thought, right, those 2 episodes we've already got wrote. Let's put those to one side for now. We're doing the Warriors next.
Yes.
Because it is an absolute 5-star Bobby Dazzler. It is a fantastic cult classic.
It's a 2 thumbs up film, to be fair.
I love it, and it's 2 thumbs up from me as well. If you liked this video, please leave a like, please leave a comment, share this across all the social media jobbies, share it with your friends.
Yep.
And if you don't have social media,
Arrow, please return my calls.
and if you don't have social media, just write your friends a little letter and say, I think you should check out these guys.
Now, wouldn't that be nice if somebody
I'd love to receive a letter.
receive a letter?
Yes.
I mean, old school. An old school letter. You know, as if you were going to sort of write into Saturday Superstore or Swap Shop. There are people watching this that probably don't know what Saturday Superstore and Swap Shop were. They probably don't even know what Live and Kicking was.
I pity you, I really do.
I openly weep for the youth of today. And we're raising the youth of today. Be afraid, world. Be very afraid.
Swing your pants.
Oh dear me. Very good. Anyways, that's it. We've got nothing more to say on this. Adios.
And we'll catch you next time, folks.